Let's talk about a plant that blooms in the wintertime when pretty much nothing else is blooming. These here are camellias, sometimes known as the winter rose because, well, they bloom in the wintertime whenever there's not a lot else going on. All right, so let me give you a quick rundown about these plants. There are hundreds of different varieties of camellia, including Camellia sinensis, which is what we use for tea, but in the landscape, you're primarily going to see two major categories of camellias. First are the japonicas. Now this is a japonica. They have a larger leaf and typically larger and more ornate flowers compared to the sasanqua variety, which have these smaller leaves and their flowers might not be quite as ornate. You can see here, this is a leaf from a japonica variety compared to these sasanqua leaves. The japonica leaves are much, much larger. Now within both japonica and sasanqua, there are many, many different colors. You're going to see reds and pinks and whites, and some of them even have multicolored flowers. This is a popular sasanqua variety called Yuletide, and it's got this bright red bloom with a bright yellow center. This is another popular sasanqua variety called Shishigashira, and it is a double bloom, so it actually looks a lot more like a rose bloom. Okay, aside from the leaf size, the two main varieties actually have some different landscape qualities. To me, the sasanqua is a little bit easier to keep alive because it is more heat tolerant and drought tolerant than the japonica variety. Now, both of them are decently cold hardy down to about zone 7. They grow best in zones 8 through 10, but with proper precaution, you can grow them in zone 7 as well. The other thing that's a little bit more unusual about camellias is they are shade tolerant and they actually will bloom in the shade. There aren't all that many shrubs that are shade bloomers, and this is a really good option for you if you have a shadier spot or a morning sun spot. If you live in the southeast where you have naturally acidic soil, then these plants are going to do really well for you. If your soil tends to be a little bit more alkaline, then you're going to want to add in lots of compost, maybe some peat moss or potting soil in order to acidify that soil and make sure that you are fertilizing with an acid-loving fertilizer to help these plants out. Now, my last tip for you is that the flower buds and flowers are not as cold hardy as the foliage is. So even though these plants can survive a zone 7 winter, if you want them to bloom, and if you notice they have a lot of flower buds on them, if we're going to have a severe cold snap where it's going to get into the low 20s or the teens or colder, you should probably put a frost cloth over them for those colder nights to protect the flower buds. Anyway, this is a great option for those that are wanting some color in the fall and winter in their flower beds.